Today on CityCast Boise, it's been a long wait for spring, and we're ready to make the most of it. Blake and Frankie are with me to share our favorite springtime activities, best picnic spots, prettiest blooms, and where we'll be on Boise's first 60-degree Saturday. It's Monday, April 3rd. I'm Emma Arnold, and this is what Boise's talking about. Hi, Frankie. Hi, Blake.
Hey.
Is spring here, finally?
I need it to be. It isn't quite yet, but I feel like we can get excited.
It's raining as we speak, so I guess, yes. Yeah.
It feels a little springy out there, and I don't know about you. I am done. I appreciate the water, but I am ready for it to warm up, and I'm just super excited. And I'm thinking, like, where are we going to be? Where are we all going to be on the first 60-degree plus sunny Saturday? Where is your butt going to be planted?
I'll go first. Okay, so my thought is because it's not that it's super hot yet. Because I'll save, like, you know, I always think of my my summers around like what activities can I do to avoid being in the super heat. But in the spring, it's perfect. It's the Goldilocks season minus all the allergies. So I will be on the trail. I will be in the military reserve as long as I've checked make sure that the trails aren't muddy, especially if it's kind of dried out a little bit. It's perfect in the spring because I can't remember the name of the trail. I'll look it up and put it in the show notes. But there's the main one that I love to go on that has a creek that runs through it. So that's where I'm going to be on the first 60-degree Saturday with everybody else who will be also on that same exact trail. It'll be packed.
What about you, Blake?
I'm actually kind of staying at home. I think one of my favorite things about spring is just that, like, oftentimes in the winter, I get in a real slump about cooking and baking, which are like things that are really important, like self-soothing things for me. I don't hang out with people as much. And so during the spring, I really like to have people over, make whatever I kind of can make from the various fresh things that I can get my hands on. It's a lot of like rustic cakes with like strawberries and that kind of thing. Ooh, just keeping things very simple. Mm-hmm. Maybe like a roast chicken with some like asparagus and like leeks and things like that. So really the thing that I love to do is just to like kind of hang out with people and just like make food, have a window open and just like let the breeze come in. That's kind of the vibe. But just
sounds like so lovely and cottagecore. I love it.
It's what I want to be doing right now, but what we can't be doing. So yeah, fingers crossed for that soon.
I'm going to be I cannot wait to get out in my garden. Right now, my yard is in that stage where like everything just looks so dead and sad and gross out there. And I just can't wait to get out. And like a couple of my beehives died over the winter, which happens occasionally. And I just want to get out there, get out in the bee yard, pull some dead hives, put some new bees in and get I have my seed starts inside right now. And I can't wait to get everything out in the garden, get it like greened up and cute again. And like right now my patio is covered because like all winter kind of like, I feel like what Blake is saying, I just kind of am inside all the time. And then anything I'm not going to deal with, I sort of set out on my patio, where I'm like, oh, I should find a spot for that. So I want to just get like the patio cleaned up, have some people over, having a little fire out there, make some little hors d'oeuvres. And that sounds like a perfect thing to do is do some cooking and a little cleaning. I don't know if you have any spring traditions. This is my spring tradition, and I really want it to take off. I want everybody to start doing this. But when I was a kid, my mom would in the spring drive us around, and she would point out, "Oh, look, the forsythia are blooming. Oh, the dogwoods are blooming. Oh, and she would point out we would go on like a drive, and she would point out like every flowering tree, which as a child I thought was the most annoying, weird thing to do. And now I do that with my own kids where I get to drive around and be like, oh, the dogwoods are blooming, guys. And I point out there's a dogwood. Oh, there's a dogwood. And my mom, this is a little morbid, but it's a very like my family thing. My mom every spring since I was a child would always, when I would kind of tease her about being so excited, she would say, well, you only have so many springs. And I know that's kind of a morbid thing to say. Yeah. But it also every spring reminds me that like, if you don't notice this, you could have 10 of these, you could have 60 of these, you have no idea. And so I every spring try to like notice things coming back to life. And I even like yesterday I was out at the park and I tried to notice like the buds are coming, they're popping, like little tiny buds on the trees. And I just try to like, I just try to notice that every year.
Well, and that's why Boise is so special because yes, we're a city, but we are so integrated. Also, like our urban gardens of everybody having literal like beautiful lawns and gardens that they've grown, but then also, integrated into the green belt along the river and the foothills. Like that's why I love that one trail is because I notice things. Like I notice that the water is rushing by and I'm hearing the birds. I'm not a birder, but I'm like paying attention to birds for like 2 months, and that is like, something that I think is fairly unique to here. And that's a really good idea. I guess I do that without realizing that's what I'm doing.
I think too, like we have so many flowering trees in Boise. Like we really do have a beautiful spring. Like, and I've always kind of joked that like, if you bring somebody to Idaho this time of year, they're going to be like, it's like Ireland, like if they visit Idaho in May or April, they're going to be like, it's so green here. It's like a rainforest. And then they come back in June and they're like, what? No, what? I was fooled. I was tricked.
Yeah. The tulip trees. I love the tulip trees.
I love the tulip trees.
Yeah.
And the hyacinth. There's so many beautiful. Yeah. Well, do either of you have a favorite like springtime thing to do outside of Boise?
Mine, I think that spring is often a little bit of it's a season that I don't always enjoy to the full extent that I want to, because in the past it's been, the last few years it's like the last semester during college kind of thing, so it's just very hectic. Before that, a lot of my springs were taken up by track meets, which if you've ever been to a track meet in the Magic Valley, you know that it's going to be blowing 40 miles an hour, maybe hailing. Maybe sunny if you're lucky, but it's just horrible. And so I'm trying to kind of, now that I'm just in a different stage, I'm trying to kind of create some new traditions. I think I really want to try to like, I don't know, try to get an Airbnb in McCall kind of thing for like a weekend and just like bring a couple friends and hang out there kind of thing. Because I'm not a big winter McCall person, but I think that maybe there's a window of opportunity there. This is definitely further out of Boise, but the last several years I've been able to make it to the ocean in the spring, which feels like a big like, winter is over. I've gotten out of Idaho and like done something fun. So I think that getting to the ocean whenever I can is a big spring plus for me. It feels like it kicks off the year.
Yeah, and it's a good time to go because it's not packed yet. So yeah. What about you, Frankie?
I totally agree with Blake. I do feel like there's a little bit of like, what do I do in the spring? But I think it's also just like I'm emerging from the winter hibernation in one way or another. As far as places to go, I've always wanted to go here. Have either of you done the Camas Prairie thing with all of the blooming wildflowers?
So cool. Yeah,
I think I got to do it this year. What are the highlights of it?
I think that a lot of the highlight of it is that it is so difficult to nail. So it's a very limited window of when they're there and blooming, but it really is gorgeous. I mean, it's called the Camas Prairie, and you literally pop over a hill somewhere and you just kind of like just see this sea of like bluish purple. And they're really gorgeous, have like a lot of like traditional uses and have like spent a lot of time in Idaho. So yeah, it's really, really pretty.
Okay. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that for sure. This isn't far afield. This is literally in Boise. But one thing I do like to do that's very spring is go watch Boise State play tennis.
Really?
Yes. It's really fun. They have a great tennis team, both the women's and the men, and you can watch them outdoors on campus, and they've got all kinds of tournaments and stuff. So I highly recommend that. That's a fun thing to do.
Oh, that's fun. I hadn't even thought of that. I was trying to think of spring sports. I was one of the lucky moms. My kids were bad at soccer. Thank God. Because I had a lot of friends who like your entire spring is spent sitting in the coldest, like track meet weather, like you were saying. I really loved spring camping. It's my favorite. Like as soon as the snow melts enough that you can kind of get up toward Atlanta. up in the Sawtooths. I really like spring camping. Everything is green and the water is just like rushing. And like we were talking about the camas blooms, but I really love to go up toward the Sawtooths. I mean, this is a little later, probably late May, but like when it starts to bloom up by the Sawtooths, every time I'm up there and the paintbrush is blooming and stuff, I always just feel like the most connected to Idaho that I ever feel when you're just up there when it's so green and gorgeous. So I would definitely, if you're new to town, recommend getting up toward the Sawtooths or up by Fairfield in a month, maybe. Probably not yet, but in a month.
Yeah.
Speaking of flowers and foliage, do you have a favorite spot in Boise to go check out the flowers?
So I know I was just complaining about having to go to school during the spring, but Boise State is really, really pretty in the spring.
Yeah.
They have, again, like mentioning like the flowering trees. That's just a gorgeous area of the green belt. Again, when it kind of like finally hits 60 and it's like sunny, you have to fend off the geese, but that's fine for the most part. Maybe get hit by a scooter or two, but that's also fine because it's just really pretty and there's just like a lot of greenery out and it just kind of feels like, this is why I live here. I remember now.
Yeah.
Yeah, the campus is beautiful. I agree with that.
Boise State has such a beautiful campus, especially in the spring. Yeah. If you're trying to do a little drive, like I said, I drive my kids around, the Boise Bench over by Colin Eustick, there's a ton of old growth flowering trees over there. East Boise, near BSU, but kind of towards Park Center. Those neighborhoods just have tons of flowering trees. If you were to just kind of drive around a little bit, you're going to see some like really beautiful old trees and stuff. And honestly, if you're looking for some like really good, timely, just like we're talking daffodils and tulips, the Mormon Temple, they nail the spring foliage every year. Right there on Cole, they always have a bunch of beautiful flowers out front. And the Yard Across is always competing with them. So there's like
hilarious.
kind of competing spring foliage over there.
I thought you were going to tell people to go walk in the Morris Hill Cemetery again.
Oh my gosh. They don't have a great flower. More of a fall winter activity. They don't have a ton of flowers.
Shoulder
there.
season. Yeah.
It's a little soggy, but
little macabre, but like it. Blake, you did stuff in the Hey Boise newsletter around our nurseries, some of the best like garden centers in the Treasure Valley. I mean, that's an obvious one, but honestly, I just like walking around like Edwards and seeing what I might spend money on to bring home and make my apartment balcony pretty.
That's also a good early fix because a lot of these things, we've had a wet winter and a cold winter. So, a lot of these tips that we're giving aren't really going to be available at least until a month from now. So just go find a nursery. It's a little bit warmer, a little humid in there, and there's things poking up.
I love North End Nursery for that. That's one of my favorites. Like, it's gray. I'm sad. I am going to go spend $25 on a plant.
Yes.
Places to go. What about, I'm so excited for picnic weather and like eating outside, patio weather. What are your favorite like picnic spots in Boise and some good patios that you love?
Sometimes I like to not be where everybody is, but in the spring it's like, no, I'm good. I want to see people and do some people watching. And so I like any patio on 8th Street. I could do for a coffee. I would go to probably Dawson's and just sit right there in the sun with the east-facing sun coming in the morning. If I'm going to have lunch, probably Fork. And then another patio that I like that I think is forgotten a lot is the Oahe Tavern patio for like a nice cocktail in the evening.
Oh, yeah, that is a great spot.
Yeah. I think a forgotten patio in Boise is Cafe Luciano's along the river. That one's a bit more on the river over by Veterans Memorial. That one I've been to, I think, the last couple springs. And it's also, just a really good spot to kind of sip on some wine and feel like you're in the summer. And also over in that area, like not as much like a restaurant, but Push and Pour has some outside areas there.
Great patio there, yeah.
Yeah, and there are a few around Garden City, so fun to take a walk there.
I really like, not that this is a beautiful spot. In fact, I always laugh when I'm at Jeanjou and you're like, oh, so French. I'm so French. And then you're out and you're like, it's a strip mall but like, it's not like pretty, but the vibe of that patio on a spring day, there's a couple of flowering trees there. And I love that patio, like just for like you said, like being around people and listen, I'm an eavesdropper. So I just kind of half listening to people's conversations. And they have a couple of very cute chihuahuas that are running around. So I love their patio. Picnic spots. I really love that Kristen Armstrong Park. that spot is such a nice spot for a picnic. And, you can do a little walk around, the fish and game area right there and check it out. And they have such nice little picnic spots. And you get a good mix of like park, greenbelt, and river right there. That's one of my favorite little picnic spots.
That is one of my favorite parts of town. Just generally, I used to live really close to there, and that was a big part of my last few springs, especially during the pandemic, not being able to see a lot of people. But that park is always pretty full, but also pretty tame.
Yeah, you know what? Again, back to my I'm okay with being around a lot of people in the spring vibe is Camel's Back. I mean, so popular, but also such a great time to again, people watch, but also grab a picnic and a blanket and just hang out for several hours. So
yeah, and great that you can grab something to eat on Hyde Park, at Hyde Park, and
so
just
easy.
Walk down and grab a coffee at Java or something. So. Well, thank you both for sharing your spring loves with me, and I can't wait for it to warm up and for all of us to get out there.
Sounds amazing. Thank you.
Thanks, Emma.
So, how long do we have to wait for it to really feel like spring? Well, the National Weather Service says maybe this weekend we could be seeing temperatures in the low 60s if the forecast holds. And one more thing before we go. At the end of last week's scramble to wrap up business at the Idaho legislature, lawmakers passed a bill targeting libraries. According to the Idaho Statesman, it would allow people to sue library boards or school districts for up to $2,500 if a minor obtains so-called harmful materials, which includes any act of homosexuality. The Idaho Library Association testified in strong opposition to the bill, and the bill is now waiting for Governor Brad Little's approval. That's all for today here on CityCast Boise. If you enjoyed the show, why not tell a friend? Leave us a review and subscribe to our Hey Boise newsletter. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more local stories from around the city. Bye.